Rico and Declan. Rico and Declan. It's the Rico and Declan College Football Show. Let's go!
Howdy, folks. It's the Rico and Declan College Football Show, Episode 6. We're going to be analyzing the cornerback, defensive back, and safety transfers. There's 10 we're going to analyze, but I first want to talk about some college football news and the unfortunate news about Ahmad Harvey from Mizzou. I'm pulling up the news on my phone, but if you didn't know, Ahmad Harvey, he was shot on, what day was it? Was it on Saturday or Sunday? It was over this past weekend, and reporting from ESPN News, Missouri's Ahmad Hardy is out of the hospital after shooting. So they say that he's going to begin recovery effort in hopes of playing this season. And he was shot early Sunday morning, and then he was in stable condition. It was his upper leg. I didn't know that. I knew about the shooting, but I didn't know it was his leg. Eli Drinkowitz says we'll take it day by day. He will be back healthy. You know, when you're dealing with elite athletes, right, getting back healthy and getting back to elite status is a little tricky in these situations. There's an opportunity he could be back this year. There is an opportunity he couldn't be back this year. And he says we won't know those answers for a few weeks. Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough that he got shot. It's even worse that it was his leg, because he's a running back. And I believe from what I read, his high school teammates were involved in this shooting. They shot him, something weird like that. And the shooting occurred in Mississippi. All right, some more news. ACC, just unfortunate news with Ahmad Hardy, and I hope he gets well soon and he could play it this season and could be as elite as he was last season. He is a joy to watch. And it really is the straw that stirs the drink for Mizzou and Eli Drinkowitz. All right, ACC stance, 2014 playoff would provide hope. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's fine the way it is, and because these conferences are complaining and just being annoying about it, it's all about money. It's a business. They want to have more teams in the playoff. So the ACC, I'm sure the Big 12 wants it as well, but this is what ESPN is saying. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips backed a 24-team expanded college football playoff format Wednesday, a move supported by the majority of league's coaches and athletics directors. It was the Big Ten that started this idea, and then now the ACC is on board with it. Let's see if they say anything about the Big 12. Phillips said, when you're leaving national championship contending teams out of the playoff, you don't have the right number. National championship contending teams. Are we being serious right now? You just had Miami. That was it. Virginia and Duke were not national championship caliber teams. I'm sorry, they weren't. They had great seasons, especially Virginia, and then they crashed and burned against Duke in the ACC championship. And Duke was an enigma itself. They were 7-5. They were great in conference play, but they were terrible out of conference. They would get killed by the teams in the playoff. Championship caliber teams. Are you kidding me? Shut up. Guy's a fool. We suffered through it with Florida State when the field was 4. That I will agree with. I'm a Florida State fan. I went to Florida State. They got screwed over a couple years ago. I'm not going to argue that. But to do a 2014 playoff, it's absurd. It's like the NCAA tournament. They're doing 76 teams. It's like everyone gets a participation trophy. And then you're going to get rid of all these other bowl games, and it's just going to be playoff slop. That's basically what it's going to be like. The SEC wants a 16-team playoff. I'm okay with that, but I kind of want to keep it at 12. Mario Cristobal, he said, I'm not for the 24-team thing. That's a lot. Why play regular season then? And I'm certainly not for automatic bids. I'll agree with Cristobal on that. Like, why? It's not a beauty pageant. Right, exactly. You have one of the most predominant head coaches of one of the best programs in the country, and he's calling out this. Good. I hate Miami, but I agree with Cristobal here. It's not a beauty contest. It's competition. Go win. Go win on the field, and the guys that deserve it get in and figure it out from there. Right. Damn straight. That should be what it should be like. Not everyone gets a participation trophy. So what if some people are butthurt? Who cares? It's ridiculous. Let's see what Reddit Lashley had to say. Well, he wants 24 teams. SMU was so disappointing this year. I mean, I don't even know if they would have got in if it was a 2014 playoff this year. Nobody thinks we should be playing a national title game on January 24th or January 25th. I agree with him on that. He says, so when we're starting to look at everything, how do we fix our calendar? One of the things that can help us do is that it's going to 24. At the end of the day, sometimes there's a perfect and there's a better. We can't ever get it to be perfect, but what we can make better is our calendar, and that's one of our first steps. He said it makes more sense to eliminate conference championship games because those teams are probably going to be in the 2014 playoff. Yeah, if you get a 2014 playoff, you're essentially getting rid of championship games. And to be honest with you, I don't like that. I love championship week. I love the Big Ten championship. I love the ACC championship. I love the Big 12 championship. I even like the Sun Belt championship. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. Lashley said we've been playing college football for over 167 years. We've only had conference championships for 34 years. You have to be able to modernize around what our game is now. Those games are big, but if you can have a weekend of 8 on-campus playoff games, that's probably going to be a good offset. I do agree with him on that. The playoff games, they should do a lot of them on campus. Seeing playoff games on campus, it's pure joy. It's amazing. It's grade A TV. Not neutral sites. I hate neutral sites. James Franklin said the bowl system, as we know, may not continue. I agree. It's dying. They're getting rid of a lot of bowls, man. All right, that's all I'm going to read about that. But yeah, that's my take. I mean, I don't like it going to 24 if it does go to 24, but the way it's looking like it could, you have the ACC in favor, you have the Big Ten who proposed the idea in favor. The SEC wants 16 teams. I don't know about the Big 12 if they're interested in a 2014 playoff. We'll see what they have to say, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen eventually in our lifetime, in my lifetime. I can definitely see them getting rid of championship week and then replacing it with these first round playoffs. And are they going to do buys? I have no idea. I have no idea. I think the whole idea is lunacy, but whatever gets you money, it's a business. Sorry if I'm annoyed. I think that's just ridiculous. Like Cristobal said, it's not a beauty pageant. All right, there's some recruiting news. I'm going to skip that. A little side note. So, Tom Moore, who is 87 years old, he's joining Iowa to be an offensive advisor. I think that's pretty cool. He is really down to earth. He's been around football his whole life. He was with the Buccaneers most recently. He really did an incredible job being the offensive coordinator with Peyton Manning back in the day. Obviously, he's not going to be at a large role at Iowa, but maybe he could help them with their offense a little bit. And he's a guy that's great on the sidelines, and he's great to be in the locker room with. So that's a good get for Iowa. I don't think he's a difference maker, but he's someone that's going to help these kids and mold them into good adults. All right, let's go into analysis here. We're going to talk about the cornerbacks and safeties and defensive backs. First up, we have Jay Crawford. So Jay Crawford is going from Auburn to join, what's the Ole Miss coach's name? Sorry, guys, I am shot right now. I just played a hockey game. I'm recording this at 1:30 in the morning. I had to play defense, too. I'm usually forward. So, yeah, Pete Golden. So Jay Crawford going from Auburn to Ole Miss, this is a good get for Pete Golding. And Jay Crawford, he's a decent-sized cornerback at 5'11", 181 pounds. This past season with Auburn, he had 1 interception and 4 pass deflections. So he's a guy that could really benefit from playing in a better system, a better defense. I'm going to look at the rest of his stats for his career. His first season at Auburn, because he's going into his junior year. This was his sophomore year. But his freshman year, he had 1 interception. He had 15 tackles, and 7 pass deflections. So he kind of regressed a little bit, but there is upside. And they got another transfer that I'm going to talk about shortly as well that's going to help their defense even more as they grow into this new season. So I'm going to give Jay Crawford a B+. I think this is a good get for Ole Miss. I think this is a good get for the Rebels and Pete Golding. All right, next up, Earl Little. All right, so Earl Little is going from my Seminoles to Ohio State. And I'll talk about his stats, but I'm going to talk about what I saw being a fan of the Seminoles and watching most of their games. I stopped watching after they lost to, who was it? It wasn't after the Miami game, but it was after Pitt. I started to stop watching them as frequently as I used to, and that's how I knew that their season was over. But anyways, Earl Little, he is very talented, and when he plays motivated like he did against Alabama, he was insane that game. I'm going to go over his stats from that game in particular because that's when he's at his best, is when he's playing motivated. He wants to put up a show, or put on a show, I guess you could say. But then there's some games you're like, where is he? He missed coverage. He's not trying. He has a bad attitude. So he could be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He's really up and down. When he's really good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's really bad. But I think he's going to benefit from playing in Matt Patricia's system, having Ryan Day as his head coach instead of the idiot Norvell. I can't believe he's coming back for another season. Help us. And I'll talk about Florida State. I'll do a whole deep dive about that team in a couple of weeks when we do ACC team reviews in the upcoming weeks. There's a lot of great ideas I got for the podcast, and I'll have more time to do more episodes because I'm going to be off. I'm a school teacher, so I record these episodes at night because I'm free, but I'm going to be more off in the summertime. I'm going to Ohio for my son's first birthday, and that's going to be in July, and we're going to be gone for 2 weeks, so I won't record any episodes then. But then when I get back, I'll go back into the grind of doing like 3-4 episodes a week, maybe even 5. I'm not even kidding. Like, I have all these ideas, and I can't wait to share them with you guys. But anyways, off the tangent, back to Earl Little. He is inconsistent sometimes. But like I said before, he's going into a better defense. He has a better defensive coordinator. He has a better head coach. And he's on the national, highlight reel for defensive backs. He's going to defensive back U in Ohio State. I think he could really benefit from being a Buckeye. And this is a make or break year for him. He's going into his senior year. He's older. He's 23. He's not 22. But I'm going to talk about his stats a little bit. He had 33 solo tackles. He was a safety. He wasn't a corner. He had 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, and 2 pass deflections. So he's a ball hawk, and he can hit. But like I said before, his numbers, they're all over the place. He transferred from Alabama. It didn't work out there, obviously. Didn't really do much his sophomore year, and that was his first year at Florida State. He had only 15 total tackles, and he had no interceptions and no pass deflections. Whereas this past season, he was a staple in the defense. He was one of the best defenders on this team when healthy. I feel like he was hurt at times and he wasn't consistent. So I'm going to go over his game log a little bit. Against Alabama, he had 9 tackles in total. Almost got a couple interceptions, I feel like, but he just missed them. And then the Virginia game, he played really good. He had 13 tackles, but the rest of the secondary sucked. And then he had more than 5 tackles in the last 3 games. But his problem is his attitude. Sometimes they would have the camera pan at him and he was yelling at teammates or yelling at Norvell. But I think that could be all solved, and it could all be eliminated by playing for Ryan Day. Ryan Day is a much better coach than Mike Norvell. It's not even close, folks. He's a better recruiter. He gets better transfers. And I think he can motivate his players more so than Norvell could ever do. So Earl Little going to the Buckeyes, I'm going to give this grade for this defensive back an A-. I think he's going to do really good there. Is he a top 10 pick in the NFL? No. Heck no. That's why he's coming back for his senior year. But I think he's going to be maybe a 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th round pick in the NFL. And he's a hybrid. He can play corner. He can play safety. He's a better safety than he is a corner, so he should stick to being a safety. But again, I'm going to give his transfer grade going over to Ohio State A-. All right, let's go over to Bo Carter. So Bo Carter was a high recruit. He's at a good size at 5'11", 200 pounds. He was from Chattanooga. And he's going from Tennessee over to, let me pull it up on my phone. I have all this saved. Sorry, folks. I am so disorganized here. There we go. He's going to Colorado. I don't understand this at all. He played really good in his sophomore year. He's going into his junior year. He had 16 total tackles for 3 forced fumbles and 3 pass deflections. So I think what I'm reading here, he's a safety. maybe he'll have a bigger role with the Buffaloes. Dion could teach him a lot because he was a tremendous defensive back. But you're going to a worse program. Colorado has nothing to offer to you except for Dion. And do I really think he's going to be better off by being a Buffalo? No. He was better off playing for Tennessee. So I don't know much about this guy. It seems like his freshman year, he had a better year. He had 38 total tackles. He had 1 sack and 1 interception. Whereas this past season, he had 1 sack and 3 forced fumbles. So he is a bit of a hard tackler. But again, I don't think he's going to be beneficial to Colorado's defense. And I don't think Colorado's good. They're one of the worst rated programs in the Big 12. They're not going to be a good team. So Boo Carter, I guess you call him Boo. It's B-O-O. Boo Carter, I'm going to give him a C+. I just don't think it's going to work out for him in Colorado. All right, next up we got Edwin Joseph. So Edwin Joseph played for Florida State. At times, like Earl Little, he would stand out, and then other times you're like, what is he doing? And I think he's a corner. Let me double check here. He's a safety. He is also going to Ole Miss. So he's joining Jay Crawford, sorry. And so Crawford and Joseph, they're going to be Pete Golden's safeties. And they really can feed off of one another. He's a good size at 6 feet, 198 pounds. This past season, he had 19 total tackles. 19 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, 3 interceptions, and 5 pass deflections. So Edwin Joseph, like Earl Little, he could stand out. In the Alabama game, he had just 3 tackles. The games that he really stood out in was against Wake Forest. He had a forced fumble in that game. Clemson game, he did decent. He had 5 tackles. He actually had a pick against Pitt, and he had a pick against Virginia, which were both losses. And he's going into his junior year just like Jay Crawford. And, I think he's just getting better. And Pete Golding can make him a better player. He's going to a better program, and he's got help with Crawford. So I'm going to give Edwin Joseph a B+. I think he's going to be solid for Ole Miss. The Rebels are going to love him. All right, next up, we got Omar Forden. Omar Forden is going from Boston College to Miami. And talk about an upgrade. He's going from cold Boston over to nice Miami. I'm not a fan of Miami, but it's a lot nicer than Boston. But at Boston College, he's going into his junior year. But his sophomore season, I believe he's a safety, if I'm not mistaken. These look like safety numbers. And he is a safety. I was right. As a safety, he had 56 solo tackles, 4 forced fumbles, 1 interception, and 1 pass deflect. He's at 5'11", 201 pounds. He has good size. He is getting better, and he's going into a better system with Mario Cristobal. So I don't know much about him. I didn't watch any Boston College games. I know that they were the worst team in the ACC. But you can always go up, man. You can always upgrade your status. And he's a guy that if he takes off with the Hurricanes, he could be a second-round pick in the NFL. Easily. Having 4 forced fumbles and 1 interception, that tells me he's a little bit of a ball hawk. He knows how to get the ball out of the receiver's hands or running back's hands. He is feisty, man. This kid is a stud. So he's just going to get better. I think he's going to have an expanded role with the Hurricanes. And again, he's going to benefit from a better defense, a better team. I'm going to give Omar Forden an A+. I think this guy is underrated as heck, and you'll hear his name a lot on Saturdays now that he plays for the Hurricanes. A+ for Omar Forden. All right, now we go over to Koi Pirish. I think that's how you say his last name. So Coy, I was a big fan of him his freshman year. And then he kind of regressed this past season. I think he was dealing with some sort of injury. Let me look that up. I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, he had a hamstring injury, and that was problematic for him. He seemed to not be the same player he was his freshman year. In his sophomore year, he had 39 solo tackles, he had 1 forced fumble and 1 interception and 2 pass deflects. You compare that to his freshman year where he had 5 interceptions. He had less tackles, but he's one of those guys that now that he's going to Oregon, he was coming from Minnesota, so he's going from one Big Ten team to another. He's going to benefit from a better defense, a better head coach, a better team. And Oregon, they know how to develop defensive players. So I'm looking at his stats. The game that stands out to me is the Rutgers game. He played against them on September 27th. They killed them. Actually, no, they only won by 3, Minnesota. So he had 11 tackles against them. He had 1 sack. Michigan State, he had 10 total tackles. And then Northwestern, a game that Minnesota had lost on November 22nd, he had 10 total tackles, 1 forced fumble. So, yeah, he's one of those guys. I think he's going to do a lot better with the Ducks. He's very talented when he's healthy. It's just a question if that hamstring is 100% or if it's still nagging. It's still a problem for him. So we shall see. But I'm going to give Coy, going over to the Ducks, Oregon is going to like this grade, an A-. He could really revive his career with them. He's going into his junior year, and he could play really well in an expanded role with the Ducks. All right, next up, we have Ty Benfield. Ty Benfield is going from Boise State over to LSU. I actually covered this on my Instagram page. One of these days, I'll figure out how to get the link over here on the podcast. But let me tell you guys my page. That way you can follow. I'm trying to get 100 followers by the end of the year. So the podcast name is the Rico and Declan CFB Show. It's basically short for Rico and Declan College Football Show, and that's what the title is. But the I guess you could call it my hashtag or whatever. It's the title of it is different. But anyways, I covered it on my Instagram page. I did a reel, and he's one of those guys that is very talented. He's one of the best safeties in the nation, I believe. He's at 6'2", 204. He is a big safety. When you have a safety that's over 6 feet or over 6'1", that is a huge benefit for your defense. So at Boise State, he had 69 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, and 2 interceptions, and 3 pass deflections. He is all over the field. Lane Kiffin is going to love this guy. And I think he's going to be one of the best defenders in the SEC, and he's going to be one of the best defenders in the country. And his draft stock is going to go up. I think he made a smart choice by coming back for his senior year and transferring over to the SEC because he's going to get more attention. He's going to get more focus. And as a result, his draft stock is going to increase. So Ty Benfield, I'm going to give him a rating of A+. I think he's really solid. And I'm looking at his numbers. Every season it seems like he got better. He is increased in total tackles every season. He had 105 total tackles. That is very impressive for a safety. So he's a ball hawk. He is everywhere. All right. We got a couple more. Ricky Gibson III. Ricky Gibson III is going from Tennessee over to Texas A&M. I don't know much about him. I know that he's going into his senior year. He seemed to play better in his his sophomore season. In his sophomore season, he had 32 total tackles with 1 forced fumble and 3 pass deflections. This past season, he had only 1 solo tackle. So I think what's going on with him, if I'm not mistaken, let me look him up. He's a cornerback too. That's very shocking that he didn't do so well. Let me look it up. I think he was injury. He had an injury. He suffered a season-ending upper body injury, a left arm injury in the season opener against Syracuse. So that had to play a factor into why Tennessee's secondary was not that good. They lost one of their best corners in Ricky Gibson, the third, and I guess it didn't work out with him and Josh Heupel, and Josh Heupel probably has better corners around in the depth chart, and he was probably like, you could stay, but I'm not going to guarantee you playing time because you missed the whole season essentially, except for the first game. He's going to a better situation with Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M, there's a plus side compared to Tennessee. I'm not saying Tennessee is a bad team. Tennessee is a good team, but it seems to me like the last couple of years with Elko being there, I feel like the Aggies are building something and they could just get better. I'm not the biggest Marcel Reese fan. I'll talk about him in a little bit, in a couple weeks when we go over SEC team previews. But I think Ricky Gibson could revive his career with the Aggies, and he could find a different home for himself. So he's going into his senior year. This is make or break, and this is going to really determine his draft stock. If he's healthy, he could be I'll say a second round, maybe third round pick. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, he's still maybe a 4th or 5th round pick, or even 6th or 7th. So I'm going to give Ricky Gibson a B- going over to Texas A&M because we don't know. He could be healthy and he could do really well, or it could be a disaster. So it's a wait and see. And I didn't really watch his games. All right, Jontez Williams. Jontez Williams is going from Iowa State over to USC. Interesting. I'm shocked that he didn't join Matt Campbell with Penn State, but he was probably like, thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather play for the Trojans. I would definitely play for USC over Penn State. You kidding me? With all that drama with Penn State they had in the years past, and I'm not going to go into detail about it. You can look it up for yourself. But anyways, Jontez Williams, he had 9 tackles in total. Well, 9 solo tackles, 1 interception, and 2 pass deflections. Looking at his numbers from his sophomore season, he had 46 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 4 interceptions and 5 pass deflections. I think he was hurt. Let me look this up. Yeah, he injured his ACL. That's serious. He had season-ending surgery, I believe, for his ACL, and that was back in October. So an ACL injury, especially if you're a corner, that's very tough to come back from. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I think his speed is going to definitely decrease. He's not going to be the same player he was in that sophomore year, and he regressed. He was on a good pathway, but then he got hurt. So this is going to be interesting for him. I think he's going to a better situation, a better team. But USC, they're kind of up and down in the Big Ten. I can't trust them to be a top dog in the Big Ten. I'm going to give Jontez Williams a C-. He could be fully healthy, or he could be dealing with a nagging knee injury because of the torn ACL. That's no joke. That's hard to come back from. So C- for Jontez Williams. And last but not least, we have Smith Snowden. He's going from Utah to Michigan. So he's joining Kyle Whittingham. I think this is a good get for the Wolverines. He had 24 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass deflects. He is at 5'10", 180 pounds. He is a very good corner. I've watched Snowden play it a couple of times. I've seen some primetime games with him. He stood out. And the thing with him, he has good speed. The past 2 seasons, he's had 17 pass deflections. He's had 4 interceptions. And he even returned 1 interception for a touchdown. Is that correct? Yeah. So, or he forced a fumble for a touchdown. Either way, he is very athletic. He fits in Whittingham's system. He's going into, essentially the same defense with Whittingham going over to Michigan. So he's really going to benefit from this transfer. I think he's one of the best corners in the country when he's healthy. And I think Michigan got a great corner for the future for this season. And it's a shame he's going into his senior year, but he's a talented kid. I'm going to give this grade for Smith Snowden. I'm going to give Snowden A+. I think he's one of the best corners in the country. All right, so folks, that's it with the analysis for the transfer portal for the corners. Next episode, which will be recorded tomorrow night, we're going to go and analyze the transfer portal for the linebackers. And then I'm going to do a little bit something different. Maybe next week I'll start doing this. I'm going to go over past teams that people kind of forget, like Teddy Bruschi when he was in Arizona. Arizona went on a little bit of a run, so I'll talk about that team. And we're going to analyze every conference or major conference. We're going to analyze every team in each major conference. Probably going to do that in the upcoming weeks. I haven't made up my mind if I'm going to do one team a night or if I'm going to cover half of the conference one night and the other conference half the next night. So I'm still figuring that out. Again, I love doing this. I'm brand new to this. We don't do any edits. It's just raw. It's just right to the point. I wanted to talk about, before we leave and before we end it, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin had went out and said to the media that he found Ole Miss to be very racist and he didn't like the Rebel logo or mascot. Well, if you didn't like it in the first place, why didn't you say it while you were there? It seems like this guy loves the attention. He loves the media. He loves to hear himself talk. And it's just infuriating. I find him very annoying. I find him to be a jerk. He's always been a jerk. And it's the worst. Now, do I hate him as much as Brian Kelly? No. I hated Brian Kelly more than anything. But I'm one of those fans that when LSU's good and they have a good coach, then I'm going to be on their good side. I'm going to root for them. But when you have guys like Brian Kelly and now you got Lane Kiffin, that's where I see myself out the door. I'm not a fan of either guy. And I hate them for different reasons. But Lane Kiffin, he's an attention seeker, man. He's posting photos on Twitter of him going to a sauna or going to a yoga class without a shirt on. Nobody wants to see that dude. It's like me. He can't get enough of himself. And I'm one of those people. I don't think LSU is going to be that good. I think they're going to be good in the beginning of the season, and then when they get into SEC play, the big boys are going to come at them, and they're not going to know what to do. Because their out-of-conference schedule is not challenging. When you're opening against Clemson again, and Clemson's not good. Let's be real. I saw that's going to be a primetime game. It's going to be a 7 o'clock game. Like, come on. What are we doing? That was a good matchup like 6 or 7 years ago. 6, 7, or even 8 years ago. It's not good anymore. LSU is... I would say they're middle of the pack SEC, And then Clemson, they're a shell of themselves. So, again, I really cannot stand Lane Kiffin. I don't believe a word he has to say. Because if he had those things to say about Ole Miss, he should have said them while he was there. Now he's addressing it after the fact. The dude's a moron. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. But, folks, tomorrow, episode 7, we're going to go over the linebacking transfer portals. And, again, I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your night. And I'll have this uploaded on YouTube. Probably, I want to say, let's upload it for 6 p.m. We'll do a 6 p.m. drop. All right. Peace, guys.